Hello, I'm Pamela Aaralyn, and today, at your request, I would like to discuss twin flames and various other types of soulmate connections, how to tell the difference, what the purpose of the twin flame connection is in your lifetime together, and what the purpose of most soulmate connections are, and how to tell them apart. So we will start with twin flames because they seem to be the most significant one that you all are incredibly interested in knowing about. A twin flame is someone who is simply a mirror reflection of all aspects of you, all of the aspects of your soul. A soul is not one soul, it is a fractal. Your soul is made of many fractals of source projecting into your human body. One or more of those fractals are shared with the twin flame. So it goes a bit like this. You and your body, your twin flame and his or her body, okay? Perhaps I can share this differently. It's more like this. See this fork? This is source. Source is going to project into this person, this person, this person, and this person, okay? All aspects are similar. So if you have an aspect of you that likes art, okay, and the source projects this aspect into you, source projects this aspect into this person, this is what soul family is. When you have a twin flame, that particular member of your soul family has an aspect or aspects that are so completely similar to you that they mirror, catalyze, and trigger all of your spiritual lessons that you're meant to learn in this incarnation. And these are all the reasons why you're here to begin with. And the twin flame catalyzes and helps you make sure that you meet those particular spiritual purposes. Okay? So a twin flame is someone who is your mirror reflection of these aspects, for the positive or sometimes for the negative, so that you can flip it around and make it positive. Okay? So the soul family connection between twin flames, you share these similar aspects or fractals of your souls. And that's what I like to call a soul fork. That's why I showed you the soul fork. Okay? So the twin flame similarities are as great as their differences. It's not just someone that you perceive as a twin and then all of a sudden things are all la-la. Okay? So this sacred relationship does not occur for everyone in this lifetime. It is based upon your pre-birth intent or your particular reasons for incarnating in this lifetime. Okay, some of you choose to incarnate with a twin flame, some of you do not. There are various types of soulmate connections, and you choose in between lifetimes during that little reset after death and before reincarnating. You choose what type of soulmate connections you're going to come across in your soul contract and in your pre-birth intentions. So that's why it doesn't occur for everyone. Okay, but it is a specific soul contract between the two soul family members involved, and they can choose to incarnate together in order to trigger and then completely catalyze each other into learning their unique soul purposes and into learning their soul purposes into which they incarnate together. Now, these are specific endeavors that they choose to do together. Sometimes they have purposes as a couple as well. So these twin flames don't have to be romantic, although they often are. It can even be a brother or a sister or a mother, father, child, pet, best friend, teacher, student, all the various roles. Alright? So sometimes these twin flames incarnate over and over and over together in multiple lifetimes in order to further catalyze each other for the utmost spiritual expansion, especially if they did not complete the purpose they incarnated to go towards in that specific lifetime that they shared. So when they complete that purpose, they can just do it all over again just for fun. Sometimes they do that too. When one meets their twin flame soulmate, you guys often report to me this feeling of being at home. Like you just see their eyes and you just know that it's home for you. That's a pretty common thing that you all report back to me as an intuitive and extrasensory luminary. I hear that quite often. And there's often a familiarity in the other one's voice, in their touch, in their personality, and in their presence as a whole that you immediately perceive and recognize right away. They often feel as if they've known each other, not just in that lifetime, but perhaps in previous ones, and perhaps forever, perhaps infinitely. So most twin flames meet in highly inconvenient conditions. The most common scenario that I see running across my path as an extrasensory luminary is the married scenario, or the in another relationship scenario, particularly combined with inconvenient location when you guys are clear across the country from each other, or even in countries that are very far away from each other. That's pretty common. So one person is often in a relationship that is, allegedly ending, and then takes longer to end, so on and so on and so on. That's pretty common in the twin flame connections, and it's just not logistically convenient. Okay, so twin flames often differ greatly from each other. This is the part that you may not expect for me to be telling you today. They often differ greatly in, they have political differences, they may differ in racial, religious, or any cultural backgrounds. Their families could be from different cultures, their religions could be from different cultures, and then their families may not end up accepting each other. That is a common scenario that I run across with twin flames. And sometimes they also incarnate at vast age differences, or just enough of an age difference to make one or the other one uncomfortable. I've seen twin flames incarnate where one perceives the other as having a different sexual orientation, only to be catalyzed and triggered to suddenly feel attracted to the other sex when they normally weren't. That's common in twin flames. Amazing and common. Very amazing. So they often have differences in tastes for food, art, or music. And despite their obvious differences, the twin flames still feel this innate sense and this strong sense of oneness with each other, despite any perceived differences. And they may also be similar, very similar in their personalities, life experiences, family backgrounds. They also can go the opposite way and have extreme similarities that are almost uncanny. So it normally goes one way or the other, extreme differences or extreme similarities. Either way, it's incredibly catalyzing and passionate and wonderful and beautiful and sometimes painful. So they can have life experiences and share unusual things in common. I've seen that from time to time, such as, a dislike for certain foods, strong dislike for the exact same very weird foods. They could have shared birthmarks on the same unusual locations on their bodies. There's some really unusual things that happen. And there was a twin flame couple that I met last week that I was reading that had what's called a calic in their hair. I have one here, and I can't ever part on that side because of that little thing. And you have weirdness in like the way that your calic is in your hair, or you may have a mole just on one ear that is the exact same size and color, and just unusual things. Or you may meet and notice that you have the same tattoo. All sorts of unusual things happen like that. And they may have a certain dislike for peculiar and random items. I had a twin flame connection that I read into a couple weeks ago that they both had a strange fear of feathers. So if ever they were at the park and birds flew around and feathers were on the ground, they would each kind of steer clear of the feathers. So strange things happen like that with the twins. They also tend to share unusual, odd synchronicities with, this is a weird one, they tend to share traits of each other's ex-boyfriends, girlfriends, ex-wives and husbands, ex-partners in general, which is really weird. Either physical traits where they look exactly the same, or their aura colors will be exactly the same, or their temperaments will be exactly the same, or they dress exactly, there's some temperament that's normally the same in twin flames with each other's ex-partners. They often have a unique and uncanny ability to complete each other's thoughts and sentences, even out loud, speaking at the same time. They may feel each other's symptoms, both physically and emotionally. If one is in ill health physically, and the other one suddenly comes down with the same symptoms, very similar, and they may feel each other's emotional pain and report that back to the other one. So they often tend to awaken to their unique set of spiritual gifts after being exposed to the presence of their twin flame. When they meet their twin flame, suddenly they begin to have massive spiritual awakenings and uncover their own etheric gifts, their etheric spiritual gifts that are coming in from their soulmate aspects. They tend to mirror and then trigger and then ultimately catalyze each other's core beliefs, negative feeling signatures and positive ones. They trigger each other's issues, insecurities, and perceived imbalances. They simultaneously balance each other out in very comforting ways when needed. So they often have opposing yet completely balanced skill sets, talents, and spiritual capabilities. Okay? My particular twin flame is incredibly logical, and I feel like I'm operating in such a different level of my spiritual energy and my electromagnetic energy field that sometimes I feel I need to be grounded, and my twin flame is very grounded and brings me back down to earth. So they generally are here to test each other on levels that no one has or ever will. So each twin soul knows on some level that their twin flame is ultimately their destiny, not just in this lifetime, but for many lifetimes, and infinitely sometimes. So twin flames can often recognize each other in these ways that manifest into what people call love at first sight. That's a pretty common thing that those of you who experience twin flames tell me, that you knew right away and then you loved them right away. Or they just go at a rather quick pace in general, or a rather rapid pace that has more intensely connecting emotions than any other previous relationship, comparatively speaking. So twin flame relationships do not often make sense. That is something that I need to tell you. They're not incredibly logical. They don't seem practical, and their relationships are often judged as irrational, even by their friends. Their closest friends and family members will often advise that they find someone more practical and more grounded because of this immensely powerful and unconventional nature of the twin flame relationships. One of the souls may end up running. I call this one the runner. Okay, and it happens in every twin flame relationship, either initially or up and down throughout the whole relationship, or towards the end of the relationship. Because yes, they sometimes do end, either temporarily or permanently in this lifetime. It's not always. It's kind of a little bit of a fable that twin flames end up together permanently. It's common, but not a black or white scenario. Okay, just like most soulmate connections, it's all based upon free will. So, because of these powerful, unconventional nature of these relationships, one runs, and normally it's temporary. And they run from the relationship, and they would consider, they either run or they just consider running and then change their minds, because they need to face aspects of themselves that require healing, or that they perceive require healing or integration. So due to The ultimate up and down nature of that, of the twin flame relationship and the runner, the friends and family will encourage them to find more logical, stable, and safer soulmate partners. Okay? And when the twin flames, when one of them runs, they will take a little break, or sometimes they run for years. So when they go through these breaks and they spend time apart, they often feel much less functioning emotionally, and sometimes even physically. Sometimes they can be triggered into dark night of the soul, or otherwise known psychologically speaking as depression. And they can feel a greater sense of incompletion within themselves when separated from the twin flame. They often perceive specific psychic answers about each other via empathy, premonitions, dreams. You guys often report back to me that your twin flames, you have specific dreams about each other. One of them visits, goes on vacation and is standing on the shore. The other one suddenly feels a sudden gust of wind on their face and hears seagulls in their head when they're just sitting in their living room. Weird stuff like that happens with twin flames all the time. So the runner in the twin flame scenario often does return to the scenario and to the relationship, but they return under unusual circumstances, often due to personal, physical, or financial catastrophes. And this can involve loss, physical illness, mental illness, many things of this nature. Twin flames often realize eventually the significance of their losses, and they will reunite. They may have many ups and downs, and it may take months or years or even decades, but most of the time, decades later even, they will reunite. Now, whether or not they are going to run again, hard to say. It's different with each of you. Just like most soulmate connections, there's a massive amount of free will involved in that. Many twin flames report that no matter how many times they part from each other, that they have these specific forces. They feel as if forces seem to drive them back together every time. So even if they spend years apart, those forces seem to drive them back together, and they can't quite explain it. So despite these immensely intense roller coaster rides that the twin flames create and perpetuate and experience together, the ups, if they hang in there, the ups will eventually become more powerful than the downs at some point if the other one doesn't give up. Okay? So twin flames, they share spiritual missions, and they're going to keep coming back in order to fulfill those spiritual missions and lessons together. They often share creative, scientific, or spiritual missions in this lifetime together, and they're there to complete those missions together. So the growth, the integration, the lessons learned together will occur more rapidly, more powerfully than during any other periods of their lives before they met their twin flame. Okay? So with that being said, let's go on to the more common types of soulmate connections, because twin flames are actually a little bit uncommon. Okay, I don't see them quite as often as I see the other types of soulmate connections. Let's discuss the mirror soulmate connection. All of this means is that the mirror soulmate connection is a person who mirrors not as many aspects of you, but at least one aspect of you. The mirror soulmate connection can be easier. It can last for years, if not indefinitely. They often do not run from each other. There's not normally a runner in that scenario. They often have so much in common that they end up just working it out. Okay, so there's a lot more stamina in that and a lot less up and downs in the mirror soulmate connection. However, there's still a lot of karmic lessons involved in that, and there still can be pain. Much like in the twin soulmate connection, when you're constantly mirroring something that is to catalyze a certain aspect, there's growth in that. And with growth, there's often emotional pain. So they could be mirroring an aspect of you in a positive way or in a negative way, and depending upon which it is, it could be beautiful or it could be painful before it's beautiful. But either way, it's like looking into your mirror. Those of you who have mirror soulmate connections tend to get it together a lot quicker than the twin flames, whereas the twin flames tend to take years to get that together, and it tends to be a lot more painful in the twin flame connection. Let's go on to the kindred spirit connections. these types of soulmate connections are incredibly common. These types of relationships, if they do end up going romantic, they start out as friends first, or colleagues. Some of you guys meet at work and you say that it's a professional colleague, or it's a colleague in the same industry as you. They may have the same talents as you. They may have the same taste and skills, taste of music and taste of food and fine art and culture, and they may have the same skill sets as you. They actually share a lot more in common. They make a lot more sense on paper than the twin flames and the mirror soulmate connections too. And normally each set of family members for each specific kindred spirit soulmate member, the family members will like each other and will like both members in the kindred spirit soulmate connection and approve of their relationship. However, the kindred spirit connection, because it starts out as friends, it does not have this lightning strike from the sky type of I know you are it factor. It is a type of relationship that feels safe, but it grows. It's like embers in the fireplace, and then you add a log. You don't add lighter fluid, like with the twin flames and mirror soulmate connections, and then let it burn. You add a log, and then more sparks, and then a log, and then more sparks, and then before you know it, you have this rip-roaring but still quite comfortable fire, you know, emotionally speaking. So that's more of how the kindred spirits go. The absolute most staying power, the absolute most staying power is within the kindred spirit connection, because they have built it, and they have built a solid foundation. If their relationship were a metaphor for a house, it would be made completely of stone and mortar from the ground up. They completely and inevitably trust each other. Best soulmate connection ever, in my opinion. So, there's one final one. The karmic soulmate connection. I used to jokingly call this, you know, in the beginning stages of my spiritual awakenings, I would call this the amoeba in the bottom of the pond of the soulmate connection. This was like the pond scum of the soulmate connections. These are the types of soulmate connections that you come in to each other, and there's this strong pull. There's this immediate lightning strike. This is it pull, but it makes no sense whatsoever. And there's always one person that's completely into it, and one person that says, I don't even think of you in that way. And it'll make you crazy, because it'll make you feel crazy, not literally go crazy, but it'll make you feel a little bit like you're emotionally questioning everything that you knew as truth when you meet a kindred spirit connection. When you meet a karmic connection, because the karma is so strong that they are catalyzing and triggering every single facet of you that needs growth, and they're doing it in a short amount of time. They sweep in like knights in shining white armor, and normally one will come in and clearly just go straight for the goal. Physically, sexually, emotionally, they will act like they are the best thing since sliced bread for the other one, completely win that one's heart, and then leave, often never to be heard from again. These type of occurrences happen a lot in one-night stands, where people come back to me and they're like, oh my goodness, he told me he was talking about marriage on the first night, and he was talking about all these things that were too good to be true. It's because it was too good to be true. So the karmic soulmate connections are there just for a brief little season in comparison to your lifetime. They're there to completely wake you up spiritually to what you want to feel and to what you need to catalyze in relation to your own spiritual growth. And then they're gone. That's it. They're not meant to be with you. It's just for the experience. So I really hope that you understood and really got something out of this discussion today about twin flames. And if you'd like to discuss it more, feel free to go to my website on aurareader.com and book a session with me, or you can discuss it openly in our group. We do that daily at facebook.com/groups/aurareader. We're going to be discussing twin flames for the next few days, if not longer. We discuss these sort of things constantly, so come, join us. send a post, introduce yourself, and let's talk about twin flames and various other types of soulmates. I can't wait to hear from you in a private session or publicly in my Facebook group. Much love to you. Namaste. Have a great evening, morning, or afternoon.